I'm Ruben Swartz, founder of Mimiran, the CRM for people who hate selling. I'm also the chief nerd on the Sales for Nerds podcast. And true to my background there, I was literally a Birkenstock wearing developer who would roll in at noon and roll out at midnight and hated talking to customers, who on my first trip to visit a customer managed to throw my rental car keys in a dumpster, which was really just a sign I thought that I shouldn't be out there talking to people. I should just be writing code behind a desk. And then I realized that actually the interesting problems are not the code, and as much as we like to think that that's really where the hard stuff is, the interesting problems are where the people are. If it was just a matter of writing code, we would have solved a lot of these problems a long time ago. And then I had twins, and here they are in New York a couple of years ago, and I wanted to stop traveling. So I wanted to wrap up some of my expertise that I had learned and won over a lot of years of tough experience, the School of Hard Knocks, into a tool that people could use without me being on the road all the time. Now, I don't know if you're in this situation, but for me, when I was consulting, all of my business came from word of mouth, and it's not necessarily the strongest foundation to build a business on. Good thing we did a good job. We got word of mouth, otherwise we would have been in big trouble because sales and marketing was really not my strong suit. But we'd have times where we were feasting, and it was like, there's too much work, I feel terrible. And then, of course, there were times of famine, and it's not enough work, I feel terrible, perhaps even worse. So if there's one thing I want you to take out of this time that you're investing today, it's the myth that you are dependent on word of mouth at all times. In other words, you are at the mercy of chance. And obviously there's some things you can do to affect chance. You can do a great job, you can be likable, etc. But nonetheless, if you're dependent on word of mouth, you don't have control over your business. And I thought, well, gosh, if I'm not going to be dependent on word of mouth, I have to be some kind of marketing genius to actually get beyond that. And of course, I wasn't a marketing genius. I'm still not a marketing genius. But that's a myth as well. You don't have to be a marketing genius, and you don't have to depend on word of mouth, and I'm going to show you how. So first of all, let's get clear about what our website is here to do for us. It has one job, to get us leads. That's it. And if you go to a typical services business's website, you want to get some HR consulting, fine. You want to buy some swords, fine. And people are acting like you're getting the secret keys to the castle and the drawbridge is up. They're making it really hard. And this is kind of like hanging up a close sign on your business. Why do we want to do this? We want to be open for business, right? Very few of us are saying, gosh, I have too many leads. Let me cut that back. Most of us want more. So one thing I realized, to be effective at this and to be authentic, to not have to be some kind of marketing guru, we don't want to market to people. Instead, we can teach them. And most of us, the folks who are really interested in serving clients, who really love helping, this is kind of what we spend our time doing anyway. It's what we naturally love to talk about. So instead of thinking of our website as a marketing vehicle for us, which of course it needs to be, its job is to get us leads, let's think of it as a teaching resource for our clients. So in other words, how do we help people deal with the problems that they have when they come to us? And how do we make sure that that's going to work well if they come to us on mobile, which increasingly they are? So really simple example, what are 5 tips for whatever your problem is likely to be if you're on this page? Now, can this improve web to lead conversion? Absolutely. But the next step is we've got to have a conversation with people. It's not enough just to get someone on our mailing list. That's great if you're running an e-commerce business where you can just drip market and people will sign up. You send them a sequence, a certain percentage will buy, etc., etc. But for those of us who are actually serving clients, we've got to get to a conversation. And this is where a lot of websites that do actually do a passable job at conversion fall down. And I know because every once in a while I try to give people money in exchange for a service, and I have a hard time getting people to call me back. All kinds of people I don't want to call me, but the folks that I'm actually trying to give money to, for some reason they're too busy. So secret number 2, let's call at the right time. You are 60 times more likely to contact a lead in the first 5 minutes versus 24 hours later. And I know sometimes these people call me back a day later, a week later, whatever. I've already figured out my problem. I've already gone with a different solution. Now, most of these folks who get to the point of, yes, we're going to teach on our website, we're going to help people solve problems, we're going to give people something of value in exchange for some contact information, they offer a typical lead magnet, which is a PDF document. Now, that's nice, but a couple things about that. One, we can tell when they first request it, but we have no idea what they're doing with it afterwards. Did they print it? Did they look at it again? Did they ever come back to it? Did they look at it 10 times? Did they just happen to look at it now, 3 months from when they first requested it, and they're hot to actually engage with us? We have no idea. And so that 60x rule is a big problem if we're spending most of our time serving clients. It's one thing if you've got a big sales team that's pounding the phones all the time anyway, but if you're just out there trying to make sure that you can call people back in between your client meetings, having a PDF leaves you basically only one swing at the ball. We want to have as many swings as we can get. Obviously, that's going to increase our batting average. Sales isn't about batting 1,000, but if we can get our average up, that's going to have a huge impact on our financials. Now, the other thing about PDFs that I didn't mention earlier is it's great if you're printing them. That's what they're for. It's terrible on a mobile device. And a lot of people are browsing on mobile. We want to have something that lets people actually engage and read comfortably on mobile. So I'm going to do a quick little demo here, but let's go in here, and I've just got a sample account. There's not a whole lot going on at the dashboard here, but if this was a real account, you'd see your web traffic, your leads and impressions, and how many proposals you've created, and what's been accepted and lost, and what I should be doing in terms of managing my pipeline all in one place. But let me go over here to this Get More Leads section and click on the lead magnets. And I'm going to click New Lead Magnet, and let's search for HR. And I'm going to create a new lead magnet based on the 7 HR culture mistakes that kill your business. This is a free lead magnet example that you can grab off the website. And I am going to show you how easy it is to customize this for your website. So for one thing, I can change what it's called. I can allow people to generate a PDF if I want to. I'm going to let people request this over the website. It doesn't require a signature. I want to say who owns it in case I have more than one user in my account. And I can put a button on this so that someone reading through this can take the next step. And in this case, it's probably, hey, let's set up a time to talk. So if you have an online calendar tool or just a contact page, you can stick that on there. So here we've got some content. I can just click in here and start editing. And you can look at this and say, gosh, yes, I agree with this, or no, I don't agree with it, or I agree with most of it, but I'd really like to take out this reference to foosball tables. That really doesn't speak to me, etc. And make this the way you want. As you can see, you can put pictures in here. You can even embed video, which is super cool. And I always recommend having a little About Me section where it's not just sort of a corporate bio, it's a person. And obviously, we want to put our best foot forward and look professional, but we don't have to act like we're trying to impress someone by beefing up our resume. We want them to understand why we do what we do, something beyond just the business aspect of it, something that lets them connect with us and connect with our mission. So you can go in here, you can spend a few minutes, you can literally take this and stick it on your website in 5 minutes, but you can go in and customize this as you need. And when you're done, just click Done, and it's going to say we don't have any leads yet, of course. We need to set up a lead capture widget. In other words, the thing that we're going to stick on our website that's going to let people request this lead magnet. And I can go through here, and again, I can customize this. I can change what the button's going to say. Note that I'm displaying a button and not a form on the web page, because when we see a form, we tend to just mentally skip over it. We want to put a button that's got a message on it that if I'm on that page, there's a good chance I want to click on that button. I can change the color. I can also do things like I'd like to show it after a certain delay. If they've been on the page for a minute, let's just pop it up. If they scroll all the way to the bottom and if they're about to leave, and we can even change where it's positioned. So for example, let's put this on the top right. And then on the form, we can figure out what we would like it to say. So if I click on this, right, it says I'd like to learn more. Don't let me accidentally kill my culture. And then we can determine what we're going to ask for. Now, we have to ask for email, obviously. And by default, we ask for phone, but we make it optional. See, each field has an unavailable, optional, or required checkbox or a drop-down. And this way, people who are not ready to give us their phone number can still get into our system. But a surprising number of people I find actually do want to put their phone number in, and they actually want you to call and they want to talk about their problem. Now, if you call them up and you give them a hard sell, it's probably not going to go very well. But if you call up and say, hey, thanks for grabbing my lead magnet, what did you think? How does that compare with what you've experienced? You can generate a lot of great conversations that way. We can change the style of the form, and we can change how this is going to actually get presented, sent to the customer. We can take someone to a thank you page. We can send them an email. We can stick our signature in there and so on. And we can even drop someone onto a MailChimp list when they're ready. And then all we have to do is take this little snippet of HTML and JavaScript and drop it into our website where we want this button to appear. Now, let's suppose that we've got this on our website and we're actually getting leads, and maybe we've also imported some leads from our existing network, our existing contact system. We can go in and actually tag them. And unlike a traditional CRM where you have to manually set, well, when am I supposed to talk to this person next? Mimiran uses those tags to assign a next conversation date to everybody. And so we can go in and, for example, we can look at all our prospects and we can say, let's start call mode. And say we're in the wrong time zone, we can skip them. But let's say we want to make this call, and I'm not actually going to place the call. But we can do this, and this will actually connect from my Mac to my iPhone, super handy. So I basically put my headphones in and just spend a bunch of time in here just calling people. And one thing that's important is we want to actually take detailed notes, and I like to label my notes with problem or P colon for a problem statement, at risk for lawsuit for wrongful termination, solution, budget, etc. In this way, when I'm going back and looking at my notes and putting together a proposal, I've got everything in the right place. Now you notice as I started typing, this changed from skip to save, because now I've got something to save. I click save, and it's going to take me to the next prospect. And in this way, I know from personal experience, I went from dreading calling people, spending more time stressing out about who to call versus actually calling, and sometimes dropping deals because I was using a traditional CRM where I had to set the next task date, and I was pretty good about that. I'd like to say 80 to 90% good about it, but if you have to do that 3 or 4 times during a deal, you end up losing a quarter or half of your deals just because you haven't actually, you've let things fall off the side of the table. So the idea here is let's make it really simple to follow up and keep things going. And you'll notice that you have to call. There isn't an excuse to back out to email. That's deliberate for introverts like me. And I've heard from a lot of people that, hey, initially it was really uncomfortable, but it's been the best thing because it's actually nice to talk to people and help them. And it's not nearly as bad as we kind of make it out to be in our minds. So let's say that we've made it through our calling and we've actually you notice we had a conversation with Al, and it labeled when it happened, and it assigned a next conversation date based on that. Let's say it's time to create a proposal for Al. And let's create a new proposal template. We'll use this fill in the blank HR proposal template. In this case, maybe we do allow PDF generation. It's not going to allow auto send from the website. It does require a signature. And here you can see we've got a bunch of these interesting fields here, right? Today is going to be today's date up and until the proposal gets accepted, and then it's going to have the acceptance date, customer name, kind of obvious. We've got a logo here, but this would actually be your logo, both on the proposal and in the upper right over here. And I can go in and basically fill in the blank on the proposal here, and you can see we've got the possibility of having more than one option within a single proposal. So I might have a basic package and then a retainer option, or a good, better, best set of tiers. Somebody might ask me for different options, and I can put that all in one place and let the client pick what's right for them. And you notice here we've got a contact signature. So when we actually send this to somebody, it will provide for an e-signature. So let's say we had a great conversation with Al, and now we're ready to send him a proposal. So we can go to my proposal templates, and this is the one that we just created. We'll go ahead and use this. Okay. Say Al, it's going to find that in here. If the contact isn't in your system, it'll ask you for a little bit more information. There's an account-wide setting that says how long are your proposals typically valid for, but I can override that. Typically the button will say accept, but I can change that as well. And I can take someone to a follow-up URL after they accept if I want, for example, a payment page or somewhere where they can download some information or maybe upload some information to us. But let's say for now we just want to go in and start creating our proposal. We've got this little notes button. And so here I can go in and search my notes. So if you've got a whole bunch of notes scattered everywhere, as I used to, this is super handy because I can basically pull in, okay, let's talk about the problem. Pull that in, paste it in here, and obviously I need to edit it a little bit, but the idea is to make it really simple to grab all of the problem statements, all the solution statements, make sure that I'm creating something that speaks exactly to the prospect's problems, because that's what I want to do. I want to solve their actual problem. I want to understand it and solve it. But I don't have infinite time to do that. So this way I can create a really customized proposal really quickly without a whole bunch of stress. And of course I want to go in and let's say I want to add an employee handbook. I can even create a new offering here. So let's say this is going to be workshop 2 hours, and if I want to, I can even group things into different phases. I can add a whole bunch of products at the same time via bundles. And if I want to, I can even add a retainer option here. I can check this button and it will actually let the prospect determine the quantity subject to some minimum threshold that I set. So I might say you can have a retainer, the minimum is 3 hours, but you can select whatever package you want beyond that. Now you notice that currently this is not selected. I could select it if I think they really want this. If they said, I don't think I want retainer, but show me what it looks like, I can send it to them unselected, but they can always go in and select it. So let's preview this, and you can see it's got today's date, it's got our investment, it's got our retainer option, and it's got this little e-signature block where it's awaiting acceptance by Al Jenkins. It's going to say done, and then when we're ready to send this, we can send this straight through Mimiran, or we can even just copy and paste this into our own email and send it from there. And the nice thing is, either way, we're going to know if and when a prospect is reading our proposal. So I like to go in, I like to schedule a time, preferably in person, but sometimes over the phone or video or whatever, to go through the proposal. And I'll actually send it from the system before the meeting, and I'll just spend a couple minutes waiting for them to read it, just quietly. And hopefully you're hearing a yep, yep, okay, great, yep, you got it, okay, and then you got a question coming. And I always like to make sure we have a meeting scheduled before I prepare a proposal. That shows that they're serious enough that they're actually going to go through it. And every once in a while that'll get rescheduled, or they'll say, okay, great, now I have to go discuss this with someone, and that's when you kind of lose track of things and you end up with those, hey, just call to see if you had any more questions on the proposal voicemails. And by knowing if and when they're reading it, you can reach out at the right time, you can assess how interested they are, and you have a much better chance of closing it without so much back and forth, without so much stress, being more in control of your business. Now, does all this actually work? Caroline Valentine, the owner of Valentine HR, said, with Mimiran, I cut the time I needed to create and close proposals by 2/3, which helped me double my business in 2 years. That's pretty awesome. And as I said at the beginning, Mimiran is the CRM for people who hate selling. Right? We want to help people. It's a system for generating leads, getting conversations from those leads, turning those leads into proposals and clients, and staying connected with minimal time investment.